Hello and welcome to another episode on Playmakers Alley. Today we're going to look to do a little bit something different. We're going to look to do a film breakdown session. And with it being the case where the University National Playoff Championship game is happening this Tuesday, I thought that would be a topical episode to get into. So we're going to look into the two sides who are going to be playing within that final. So that's University of West England, often referred to as UWE, and Nottingham University American Football Team, often referred to as Notts Gold or Nottingham Gold Team. So we're going to look at the matchups. They recently had a game just before the playoffs started, the final regular season game of the season, where the UWE picked Nottingham to the game. But we're going to use that tape to try to understand what are some of the things that they do, what are the strengths and weaknesses to both sides. As Nottingham lost, what Nottingham may have to look to overcome in order to win the game, and ultimately is to figure out who might end up winning this final. Will it be Plateau or will it be Plumo? That's the question. So let's get into it. Let's watch the tape. We're going to focus on the first two drives of both teams, plus some additional plays. So cool. So we're starting with the Nottingham offense. We'll watch the play first through one time, and then we'll go and we'll talk through it. But they've come out in what I would call as a wing-back duo. So you've got twins to the left. You've got one wide receiver out wide. You've got someone attached to the offensive line, slightly step back, so wing-back duo. Little motion. Call it try and run an inside zone. You get stuffed straight away. So what we have here is we have an inside zone. They look to try and run an inside zone. It gets stuffed by the D-line straight away. And this was indicative of one of Nottingham's challenges the entire game. Throughout the entire game, Nottingham struggled to run the ball. In fact, they essentially had no run game. And because of that, it put a lot of pressure on their offensive QB, receivers, and their pass game to come through and make some plays, and which they stood more than tall to it. The QB, the play calling, everything stood more than tall to it. And although they got picked in this game, the lack of a run game put the pressure on them, and they came up shining. But as you can see here, shows as well one of the strengths of the UWE team was the defensive line. The defensive line is a very strong outfit. Did an excellent job throughout the entire game, obviously stuffing the run. Sheds goes there, makes a play. And the box play was generally not too bad. If I'm being super critical within this play, if we watch number 42, he could be a little bit more aggressive on his read. Number 6 over here, the other linebacker does an excellent job. Knows what gap he's got to play, sees that it might be slightly open, comes downhill very aggressively. The line essentially stuffed. There's nowhere to go there. And because the D-lineman makes a nice little play there, they're stuffed for no gain. Second play of the drive from Nottingham. Come out and trips this time. Trips gone minus. Pass play, go for a deep shot. Nothing's coming of it. It's just all verts from this situation. From what I can see here, the QB looks to essentially the QB's already decided. The QB's decided pre-snap he's going to go to one of these two guys in the middle. He's likely seen that the corners are off. He's like, oh, cool. That's not what I'm going to go to. He essentially then, from what I can tell when we watch the tape, we'll see it again. He looks to see how the slot player is played, how the slot receiver's played. It looks like they've got a one high look, so he's assuming there's going to be a middle of the field safety, essentially reads the safety and then takes a shot on the other person. Even though it's well covered by the UWE defense just generally, that's what the QB looks to do. And essentially it just goes nowhere. Sees the safeties there, throws to the other guy, just make sure it can't be made a play on by the DB, and fine, we'll toss it out. You got stuffed on the first play, you go for a shot on the second play, nothing too crazy there. So now they're in third and long. Once again, come out in trips gone plus. Nice little throw, they get a touchdown here. Nice block from the receiver. Lovely little touchdown that takes Nottingham ahead. So with this play, I've known some people in my circles have seen it as a design bootleg. I personally don't think it's a design bootleg. I think that this just shows the strength of the Nottingham QB, who had an excellent game here and has had excellent games throughout the season, as well as the receiver core and the chemistry in which they have. I personally think that what ends up happening here is that essentially we're in the trips gone plus look. The QB, he knows what his concept is. He's looking at this guy as the number one receiver on this concept. He wants to hit this guy initially, sees that's not open. Knowing that's not open, and also knowing that, well, they've played UWE before, knowing that UWE have a strong front, he understands what his concept is on the backside and he looks to get towards it. And at that point, it essentially turns into a scramble drill from what I believe on this side. What I believe the concept is initially, I believe it's a stick concept. So what I believe it is that this guy's coming to hitch, this guy's going out, and essentially you have a fade along the numbers or along the sideline here. That's what I believe the concept is here. And I think it's a hitch from here. That's what he's looking to do. And he's looking to get a quick 5 yards, or maybe they have the guy catch the ball, make the guy miss, and possibly get going, just to get the offense moving. That's what I believe the concept is. I could be completely wrong, but that's what I believe it is. And then essentially what we end up seeing from all of this is that because you'll see particularly the two slot receivers here, you'll see them as they're running their routes, they look at the QB, they see the QB scrambling, and then they essentially both go into a scramble mode where this guy, let's go with blue, where the number 2 receiver essentially takes his route and then carries it, turns it into a wheel up the sideline. The number 1 receiver, rather than sitting, works towards the sideline, and the number 3 receiver, number 1 receiver just continues with the route in which he's running. So let's watch that again. So on this occasion, while waiting to watch the QB, you're going to see him initially looks to the singled receiver. He gets stuffed on the line by the DB. The DB does an excellent job covering him. But the QB is aware of what his concept is on both sides of the field. And I think that's obvious in the way in which he plays it. He looks for one, sees it's not open, knows he's got to look back round, so he essentially spins. Maybe he feels the pressure or just expects the pressure. I'm not certain there. And then the chemistry between him and the receivers, they go into a scramble and they score a lovely touchdown. So let's watch that. So we're going to watch the top first. This guy gets stuffed in the line. The QB looks to try and get to him. Sees, oh yeah, that's not on. Spins. So the QB looks at number 1. Sees that's not on. Doesn't like that. I don't know whether he just knows what his pass pro is, or he's just expecting that guy. He knows that guy's on the running back, and the running back's going to give him the inside. I don't know what it is. Or maybe it is a design bootleg. As I said, I don't think it is. But then he realizes that's not on. Knows he's got a pass concept to this side. And as I said, what I thought it was is a stick. So I'm of the perception that this guy's initially going to sit here. This guy's going to work towards the out. This guy's just going to go downfield. This guy's going to work towards the out. This guy's just going to go downfield. Now, what ends up happening, you can see as he's working towards the out, looking for the ball, the receiver here gets eyes on the QB, sees the QB scrambling. He knows that at the time of the concept is now completely off. So he then goes and decides he's going to continue running. This person's running a route with a slight slow start, possibly to try and generate separation. But that's how he's running the route, the number 1 receiver. So you can see the number 2 receiver's looking at 1. Then, let's see if we can get number 3 receiver. Yep, so then if you look at the number 3 receiver is also, as he's partly through his route, is watching 1. He sees the QB scrambled. Because he sees the QB scrambled, he's now also looking to work towards the sideline. Essentially, these two go into a scramble drill. He's just running his route as normal. He sees he split the coverage, running downfield, number 1 receiver. So number 1 receiver does an initial jog to try and make it seem as though he's blocking or something of that nature. 2's basically ignoring him, looking at 13. 3 is staring down the QB like there's no tomorrow. And then he continues running the route, splits the two defenders. At this point, he knows he's behind the coverage. Number 19 knows he's behind the coverage. I believe it's a miscommunication from the safety and the corner. It's a miscommunication from the safety and the corner. QB does an excellent job to get himself a platform, looks downfield, These guys have all kept moving, kept the play alive. Gets the ball out there, catches it. The number 19 makes a play with his feet. The receiver from the other side comes and puts in a wonderful block. They go and get a touchdown. But I feel like this touchdown shows a lot of the strengths of the Nottingham offense and the way in which they played throughout this game. The way the chemistry between the QB and the chemistry between the QB and his receiver core, the way in which the QB went through his reads, but not only went through his reads, and I hope it's clear from this example, but there'll be other examples. It's clear when you watch the tape of this QB that he understands and knows what his concept is from both sides. So it's not the case in which he's looking for answers if it is stuffed on the initial read. When he looks at his number one option, he knows, okay, cool, my number one option isn't open. These are the next things I have to progress through in order to know what I'm going to look to throw the ball in. It's not that he's looking, oh, number one's not open. Now I've got to look back around, figure out what routes they're trying to run, and then figure out who I'm going to throw to. He already knows that, and that's clear. And then they've clearly got chemistry because it turns into a scramble drill. But the strength of the QB here is ability to make a throw, make a read, be calm under pressure, and the chemistry he had with the receivers and how the receivers played it as well. As I said, I believe it was a stick concept that they essentially went into scramble drill when they saw the QB had to go off platform. It's just excellent generally. And it also shows from the UWE side, this was one of the challenges they had throughout the game. As we had in the initial play where they stuffed the run, their D-line, excellent. Absolutely excellent. They did a great job all game. They made it very difficult for the offensive O-line to get any sort of run game going. And although the offensive O-line did hold up, managed to let their QB get some throws, even though the QB was seeing pressure, the D-line did an excellent job. Their DBs, they matched up relatively okay against the Nottingham receiver core, but they clearly had a mistake prone to them because this is clearly a blown coverage. Like the defensive coordinator wouldn't just have someone running a fade wide open. And I believe the challenge that they've had here is essentially number 3 and number 2. One of them has messed up their assignment. Here. So, what's number 2? Phil's watching. Cool. Yeah. So in this world, number 2 is what opens up in zone. I don't know whether his assignment is to take this out and then pass this off onto number 3. The way number 3 opens up to the middle of the field, also watching the QB. But number 3 has no idea. Number 3 has no idea what this number 2 receiver is or what the number 1 receiver is doing. No idea what either of them are doing here. That much is evident. But the way in which he's bailing, maybe he's got a deep assignment. I'm not sure which one he has, but it's definitely a mess up between these two. One of them is meant to carry number 19 deep. In this world, what ends up happening is that neither carry number 19 deep because the slot receiver converts it in towards a wheel that also acts as some eye candy to both number 2 and number 3, essentially ignoring 13, wide open, goes and makes a lovely touchdown. And it's great hustle, great effort from the guy who had his route stuffed initially to come put in a wonderful block, and they go and score a lovely touchdown. So that shows you the chemistry, the skill of the Nottingham QB, as well as their receivers and how they've married that together and done an excellent job, as well as the prone to mistake that UWE have, particularly in their DB core, because it's a mistake as to why that ends up being as wide open as it is. Someone's definitely meant to cover him deep. 2 of them aren't meant to go through the wheel. Cool. So that was their first drive. So the Nottingham first drive, they get stuffed on the run on the first play. They go for a deep shot on the second play. Third play, they end up scoring a touchdown, and that's in the 3rd and long situation. So a lot of QBs will crumble under that situation, especially when you picked up no yards at the beginning of the game. They've gone and made a play, and the chemistry with the receivers, they've gone and converted that and scored a lovely touchdown. So here now we move on to Nottingham's second drive of the game. They come out in doubles. Doubles gone plus what I would call this, because the field's to the right. Nice little pass, nice little yardage. Cool. Nice little pass, nice little yardage. And this was a theme throughout the game when I was watching it. What I thought was a pretty good job. In fact, yeah, a really good job from the offensive coordinator. I thought the offensive coordinator, particularly for Nottingham, he called plays that helped to scheme people open. He called plays that made it easier for the offense to move the ball, which is definitely necessary in a game where you're struggling to have a run game. Where you're struggling to have a run game, the opposition know you're going to have to pass the ball, you know you're going to have to pass the ball. You want to make it easier for your QB to make some plays. And I think the offensive coordinator certainly helped him in doing that. And this was a prime example of it. This was a snag concept. So a snag concept. So essentially what we have with a snag concept is that we have a snag route for number one, which looks a little bit like a slant, but it's not a slant. You essentially straight off the line, work towards the hashes or towards the middle of the field, then you sit. You essentially have a corner route from the number two who stems off this, runs a corner route, and then if it was trips, if you had a number three, they would just be running a flat route. In this world, they use the running back to run the flat route. You essentially then have a flat route ran from the running back, and essentially what you're looking to do in this concept is you're looking to read the corner. You're looking to read the corner, and I think in this world the QB ends up reading number three. But normally you're looking to read the corner. If the corner bails off deep. The corner bails off deep in there in cover three, and the corner's got a deep third. You already know you know that the corner route is a no-go. You know the corner route's a no-go if the corner is going to bail. So this snag, because it's a quick hitting concept, you essentially go, if there's someone here, number three's sitting there, so that's an issue, which is why the QB likely reads number three. But if there isn't a nickel corner here, you're looking to here. If someone's standing here and their job is to deal essentially with this hook to curl sort of region, you know if the corner bails, you can fire this into this section before this guy gets here. Now, because of the way they've lined up and the way they've played it different, because of the way they've lined up and the way they've done this a little bit differently, QB reads number three. Essentially, he watching to see how number three plays. The slot receiver. If he carries it, if number three carries it, he knows that he's vacated this area. He knows number three has vacated this area, so the snag should be open, and he'll just hit it, and he takes the free yardage. Cool. So let's rewatch that now. Cool, QB's looked at the field, seen what he likes. So if we watch the QB here, it looks like the QB has a quick glance at two, sees that he's barely dropped off, but having seen the field pre-snap and seen number three, he then gets his eyes to number three. The moment he sees three's turned his back, and although two's barely dropped off, he's not tight to the number one receiver. Essentially throws it on time. 19 gets the catch, gets a few yardage, and they help move the ball. So looks, sees it open, nice, throws it, gets the space, gets a nice 6-7 yard gain. Nice concept, nice throw, nice play from the QB. Cool. Second play of drive two. So we've come out now in what looks like almost like a double stack, but doubles bunch. Double stack, doubles gun bunch, gun minus. They go for a run again. Absolutely get stuffed. Once again, showing the strength of the UWE D line. Nice read from number 6 as well from linebacker play. I feel like this is good linebacker play. Nice wide open window, comes downhill aggressively. D lineman shovels him into his gap, goes and makes his stuff. Cool. If I'm being super pedantic, 42 is a little bit passive in terms of bringing that run. He barely moves off his line, of his spot, even though it's a run play. So, but the D line of UWE is so strong, so dominant that they do a lot and make life a lot easier. But 6 does a great job in terms of helping the D line reach his gap, goes in nice wide open 1 yard gain. Once again, showing the struggles and the challenges Nottingham had in trying to run the ball. Cool. Fair play drive. They come out here now in trips bunch. Trips come minus bunch. Nice. This is nice because we can use this to compare to the last play. So, as I said, with the last passing play that we had, it was a snap concept. They've run the same concept, just out of a slightly different look here. So, to the trip side, we have a snap concept. What we essentially have, because it's run out of trips bunch, what we essentially have is one. Oh, sorry, let me place that. Essentially, have one looking to run. Let me change that color. We essentially have one looking to run a snag, but because they're in bunch and it's a compressed look, he basically just goes and sits on the hash. We have number 2 running the corner route. We have number 3 running the slide. Snag concept. So we have the snag, or the compressed snag that they have here. We have the corner route, we have the slide. On the back side, I think you might want to hitch or you might want to fade, I'm not sure. But that's not part of the concept anyway. Snag is the concept to this side, and this side will probably be some sort of one-on-one. Cool. So, as we rewatch that, that's what you'll see. Number 1 runs a snag, number 2 runs a corner, number 3 runs the out route. And he throws this time the corner. Why does he throw the corner? So as I said initially, with the snag concept, generally, well, they're playing a nickel, so you have to be aware of number 3 generally. But normally you just read the corner. You read the corner. If the corner bails, you're assuming you're going to hit. Assuming that you don't have someone wide out there, you're going to hit the snag before the coverage guy gets there. If the corner sits deep or the corner stays shallow, then the snag, based on the leverage, and you know the route, unless the safety knows it's coming, the safety's going to have inside leverage on the corner route. Good throw, it should be a decent catch, and they make the play. So in this play, one of the good things about this trips bunch set, essentially, what it helps, particularly the way they run the concept, it helps takes 3 out of the play. So you just read the corner. If the corner sits, you know you've got the corner route. It takes 3 out of the play in the sense of like the snag route is going to be a challenge to hit regardless, but because of the fact that you've condensed it, you've now by alignment created this nice wide space here. So if you know what concept UWE is running, or you get a nice look, you know that there's going to be space to throw in for this corner route. And that essentially is what happens. Or you hit the flat. QB sees the corner, be super aggressive on the shallow, knows what the corner route is. And what you'll see here from the QB is that the corner essentially reads the QB essentially looks at the corner, sees the corner, is super aggressive on the flat route, and the QB knows the concept. He's not looking to then relook at his corner route, confirm how the corner's going to be run before throwing it. If you watch it closely, QB's reading the concept, sees the corner comes very aggressive on that, and essentially, with barely a glance back towards the corner route, he throws the ball. He knows based on the coverage that this is what's going to be open. He trusts his ability and he makes the throw. And yes, it's slightly overthrown, but that is good QB play. Like, cool, comes aggressive. Okay, cool, this is going to be open. I throw it, slightly overthrown. If the slot receiver there is a little bit quicker, or the ball's thrown a little bit better, that's a nice little game. But what I want to see from there is that, like, one, the concept, the way they've lined up the formation. I have no doubt they've done their work, their homework as to how UWE play. The concept itself helps out the QB. The formation married with the concept helps out the QB. That is what I would describe as excellent offensive coordination. Like, you know what you're expecting from the defense. You know what you want to do. You bring things together to help make that easier. Yes, you've got clearly a very talented QB. As we've seen not only from this play but from the previous play, that he has a good arm, has a good throw, but he also has a good ability to read as a QB. And that is a challenge generally within the brick ball game. So to get those two things, yeah, it's excellent. But helping to make his life easier is important, particularly in a game such as this one, which we're watching beforehand. And we don't know how the final may be. The final may be different, where they essentially had no run game. So for the game to be as close as it was, and for them to have a true chance of winning it, it's really a testament to some of the play that the offense made on the Nottingham side. And in this world, the UWE defense doesn't do anything too wrong. Like, they play it relatively decently, but the concept beats the coverage here. If it's a decent throw and the guy makes a catch, if the safety makes a contested, great. But it's a good concept, good play call, good read. Unfortunate about the throw. Cool. And that was essentially Nottingham's first two drives. So from those first drives, what have we witnessed? That they had a challenge running the ball. That was evident. They had a challenge running the ball. They come out in a lot of spread formations. They had the odd 11 personnel where they had the wing-back duo. Come out a lot of spread formations. The QB has a excellent ability to play the QB position in terms of read and make plays. Although we didn't see any major deep completed throws, QB's got an excellent arm as well. The offensive coordinator, the play calls in which he made helped to make life easier. The way that the formation was acted helped to make life easier. And I assume that's come from Scout. And those things are going to be very important in the final in which they play in. Especially, I assume that I imagine they're going to do some work to try and get themselves some sort of run game, because it's going to be very challenging to win the game if they don't have a run game. But if they're able to have their offensive pass performance be as good as this, and the receivers and the QB play as well as this, and the coordinator makes calls, then they've got every chance, and it'll be a very good game, which I don't doubt it will be regardless. But that's definitely one of their strengths. Their offensive pass ability, the play calls in which they've made, their QB, and the talent they had there. And I think it matched up very well against the UWE DB call. So this is that was an extra play. So we've seen the first two drives from Nottingham. It's an extra play. So let's watch it through. Nice. Touchdown, nice. And essentially with this play, so this was another touchdown from Nottingham. Essentially with this play, what do we have here? Okay, cool. Unfortunately, I don't know the name of this concept. But essentially what the concept is, this concept is designed to beat cover 2. So essentially what we have here, cool. So we essentially have what one can describe as 12. We essentially have 12 personnel here, although it's with the receivers, so call it what you will. You've got a wing back and a receiver on the line, or doubles type bunch. You've got running back to the backfield, and you've got twins spread out to the left. And the concept in which they essentially end up running here, they run a sort of mesh concept to this side. QB knows that this concept's here. He's not really bothered by it. Or he's decided pre-snap that's not the concept he wants to look towards. And then on this side, they essentially end up running sort of like a seam or fade, and then they run like a sort of over that's looking to attack. the middle of the field. And essentially, what this concept is looking to do, particularly the play side is in the concept in which they run. Particularly what the play side concept is looking to do against a sort of cover two look. Because I'm focused on the coverage in which UWE are trying to run, but I'm pretty sure they don't run cover two. But essentially, against cover two sort of look, what we end up having here is that you will have a safety. You have a safety whose job is to deal with this deep half. You have a safety whose job is to deal with this deep half. You have a safety whose job might be to deal with this deep half. And essentially, this over route is attacking the middle of the field to the weak part of a cover two defense. This is looking to hold. This is not looking to hold safety. You essentially have on this side, the safety can't be right. If the safety ends up covering this route should be open, or you should at least have a nice matchup. If the safety ends up covering this route should be open, and that's essentially what ends up happening. Now the receiver does a nice little job within the route to help create more separation, which I'll explain as we get into it. But essentially, you attack the middle of the field, which is weak, which the cover two coverage is weak against. The safety now has to pick one of the two to help out with. Whichever one he doesn't pick to help out with is the one that you throw. Now, with the way in which UWE play, they essentially have their backer look to carry and protect the weakness of the coverage, which is the middle of the field, and play it over the top. Now, depending on the talent level you have, these are two very talented teams. You would normally take the matchup. Okay, cool. They've got this safety. They've got this linebacker looking to cover the slot receiver running up the over in the middle of the field. If the ball is thrown well enough, you will take the matchup. So the fact that the linebacker's looking to drop, it's like, okay, cool. On paper, it helps, but it's a good throw. The receiver runs the route well. You're expecting, depending on how good or excellent the linebacker plays it, 70 to 80% of the time you're expecting to win that matchup, and it's a throw that you would take. In this world, the QB sees a nice, easier throw, so he takes it. But just by the fact that this linebacker looks to drop and help take this away against excellent offensive play and QB play, that doesn't really mean much unless the linebacker shows that he can, on a regular basis, cover it well. The QB will likely look to take that if, for the sake of argument, the safety had gone and look to take this away. So cool. So that's the concept we end up getting. And once again, what this shows is that it's an excellent play call, and great chemistry between the QB and the receiver, and the receiver set. We've got the over, nice, they drop, nice little throw. And now if you watch, one of the things to watch on this play, which I really like from what the receiver's done, he runs a very beautiful and excellent route. Releases off the line, sees the corners, played it soft and widening. So essentially he's done his stem. Now the receiver knows that essentially the point he's looking to get to is here. Right? He could just run here. He could just run it straight. Once he gets off the line, he's got a soft look from this guy. He could just run it straight. But what he decides to do to try and help generate some more separation, which I think is really, really, really nice. Really, really nice. Essentially, he stems towards him a little bit, gives him that, and then instantly gets his head inside. As he's stemming, he goes towards the corner. He makes his way towards this corner, which causes this corner to widen a little bit. Makes his way towards the corner, which causes the corner to widen a little bit. The QB's watching the safety. The safety, because of the way in which 13 is because of the way they both release, and probably because he's watching the QB's eyes, the safety has decided to prioritize the slot receiver, which is in a catch-22. It doesn't really matter which one he does, to be honest. So he's in a catch-22. It doesn't really matter which one he does. But he decides to prioritize the slot receiver, which is a reasonable decision to make. Perfectly logical. So you get the number 19 here, run as though he's going to run an out and up, but it really isn't an out and up. It's just a step to sort of generate, widen this receiver, widen this corner a little bit, and also just create a larger window. Just create a larger window for him to throw this. Now he's not aware of what the now he's not necessarily aware of what the safety is doing. Now he's not aware of what the safety is doing. Now he's not aware of what the safety is doing. But what he does know is that he can see the corner. The corner's been a little bit soft. He knows that if he runs towards the corner will have to respect him, which the corner does, widens a little bit, and if the QB does choose to throw it to him, by widening the corner, regardless of how this safety plays it, if the QB chooses to throw it to him, by widening the corner, he is making the window of opportunity for this pass as good as possible, or as high quality as possible for the QB should he choose to throw it towards it. Because if he just stems it here, this cornerback may look to compress it down. And if the QB throws it, he'll still probably get a touchdown, probably still score it. But it just brings the corner into the play. While by widening slightly, or looking like he's going to run an out and out, that widens the cornerback. The cornerback's now out of the play. Instantly he gets his head round, creates a nice large window, the QB hits him, it's a lovely touchdown. And that's essentially what we see. That is essentially what we see. Cool, so let's watch that. Yes, that's essentially what we see. Lovely job, nice little touchdown. And that shows you some of the excellent play calling, the excellent QB play we've had, and the excellent chemistry with the receivers that he's had as well. And in this world, the UWE's defensively doesn't do much wrong. It's just a good concept against the coverage. Well thrown by the QB, well played, good route ran by the receiver who ends up catching the ball, and they get a touchdown. And this is what I would look and call they train hard too. This is good football. They're in a coverage. They play the coverage relatively well. It's an excellent concept. The way in which the offense runs it is very good. And to be honest, the way it's run, they should score on this, and they do. So that's the Knots offense and defense, and so that shows you some of the strengths. So like, Nottingham's offense is going to have to come to play come Tuesday, and if they do come to play, every chance to win the game. Even though the UWE D-line is no joke. Their DBs match up relatively well, but they have a mistake in them, as we've seen. And I think their linebacker play, Six played it, but I thought Six played it very well in terms of reading the O-line and how he played it. 42 had a decent game as well, but I thought that's where, because Nottingham are going to need, or I feel they're going to need, a run game to help them towards their aspiration of picking up that title tomorrow, picking up the title on Tuesday. What they're going to need is figure out a way of running the ball, and I think the targeting a weakness in the D-line isn't the play. I think looking at probing their linebacker play and their second level layer play to see if you can get some runs, whether that be via some trap or some man concepts, power, things running downhill. I don't think they should look for things that necessarily work sideline to sideline. So I wouldn't necessarily look to bring in outside zone or buck sweep or counter play necessarily, unless it's looking to get downhill fast. Because I feel like the strength in which the D-line play has shown against the run is that if you've given them time to be able to control and play with their blocks, and you're looking to basically create that own movement for your running back to go cut a crease, I think on the basis of how the UWE line has played, in those situations, you're often going to get the case where the UWE line is just going to win. But if you manage to somehow initially pop through downhill, get past the D-line, even if you're dodging some flailing arms and some diving tackles, and get onto the second level and start having to basically attack the linebackers, I think that you might gain some success. It wasn't visible here, and I could very much be wrong, but I feel like you need a run game, and trying to make plays on this D-line may be a challenge, particularly if they come to play the way they have done, and they've just been excellent in this game. But that was the Nottingham offense. So now we're looking at the UWE offense coming onto the field, and their first two drives. Cool. So they've come out in what I would describe. They've come out in what I would describe as body minus. I describe it as body minus, twins right, twins looking from the defensive viewpoints, twins left. So essentially, what Buddy's telling me is that we've got a QB and gun. We have a running back offset to him, and we have a fullback that is to the opposite side of the running back. That's what Buddy's telling me. Buddy is essentially telling me that we have this guy opposite side to this guy. That is what the Buddy's telling me. The minus is telling me that the running back is to the side of the least receivers, so it's to the single side. Twins left is just telling me that the twins is to the left. That's what it's telling me. So Buddy gun minus twins left. That's the way I would describe it if I was looking to figure out how I'm going to give terminology to my guys and how I'm going to plan against it. You might call it something different, as I've explained in one of my videos before. Everyone has their own terminologies. What matters is that you're all on the same page as to how you describe it. So what I'll be referring to this as is Buddy gun minus and the twins left or twins right, depending on which side it is. Cool. And as I've highlighted in one of my previous videos as well, this is obviously a run look. So loads of guys towards the center, towards where the O-line is, it's a run look. Doesn't mean you can't pass out of it, but it's a run look. Cool, so let's see what they do. Cool. They essentially run ISO or power. It's one of the two. Yeah, so they essentially run ISO. And this play here, as you can see, they gained about 6-7 yards here. This was indicative of one of the challenges Nottingham had throughout the game. In the same way Nottingham couldn't buy a run offensively, they really struggled in stuffing the run defensively. UWE's run game in this game was firing. It was firing. They were regularly getting 4+ yards and in the vicinity of 7-8 yards regularly on their run plays. And that was generally, in my opinion, due to the struggles or due to the second level play. So what am I talking about when I say second level play? So if we think about the defense having 3 levels, first level is your D-line, second level is generally your linebacker play, or any player that has to be loaded in order to deal with the run. So that might be a safety or a nickel or a corner, depending. But that's your second level. Then your third level is your DBs. Your safeties. I also would generally consider corners third level because they're just generally dealing with the pass, particularly if it's against spread offenses. But if they're towards the offensive line and played in tight and having to deal with a primary run gap, then I would also call them second level. So you essentially have one level, 2 level, third level. And depending on whether the corners are predominantly still a pass or run, they're also on the third level or they're on the second level. So generally it's been a challenge of second level play, and that is evident here. That was evident here. Because the D-line play from Nottingham, I think that Nottingham also have an excellent D-line. I think it's evident here, although it might not have been clear from the amount of run plays, the amount of run yardage they got. I feel like the Nottingham D-line did an excellent job this game. Generally put pressure on the QB. The UWE QB was wary of the pressure as well. Often got antsy in the pocket when he couldn't get to his first read. And they often created penetration, even in run plays. So, well, cool. So we've got this buddy look. It was a large run. Remember, one of the most important things, depending on the concepts in which you're using to defend the run, but one of the most important things when it comes to dealing with the run is gap discipline and understanding what your gaps are. And not only understanding what your gaps are, but how your gaps might change through the play. So here we've got buddy minus. So because of that, what we know, as I've highlighted in a video before, I may put it up if I can get it as a card. Highlighted in the video before, we assume the QB is not a run threat unless by scout we assume that it is the case. In this case, we're not. We essentially have the number of gaps, the number of possible blockers plus 1. So we have the 5-0 lineman. We have the 5-0 lineman. With 5-0 lineman on, and then we have a fullback. We already said the QB, we're not considering a running threat, so we've got the running back. So because we've got 6 possible blockers, we need 7 people in the box to defend the run. So first and foremost, let's look at that. Let's see what the Nottingham defense has. Do they have enough defenders? Do they have enough defenders in the box? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So schematically, from looking at the way they lined up and how Nottingham lined up, Nottingham have enough players to defend this run. So why does this run go for like 6-7 yards? Why does this run go for 6-7 yards? That's the question. They've got enough players to defend the run, but yeah, it still gets a lot of yardage. And this is the second aspect of gap discipline. It's not only having enough people to deal with the run, but it's also knowing what your gap is and how your gap might be influenced and changed as the play develops. So in this world, this is how I would play it. Nottingham defense might play it slightly differently, but they will have someone accounting for all these things. So in this world, you've got the 5-0 lineman, got 6 gaps. You've got this fullback in the back who's creating another gap. You've got this fullback in the back who's creating another gap. Now this fullback, because of where he's lined up, this fullback has multiple options. This fullback could work to the outside. This fullback might work to the inside, as he does in the play, which we witnessed. He might work across. So because this fullback can do all these things, and every time the fullback eventually inserts into the line, he creates another gap. Remember, the number of gaps is the number of people plus 1. So the moment, currently, his gap isn't visible because he's not on the line, he hasn't generated it. But the moment he inserts into one of these areas, he will generate another gap. Now, because we've got the O-line, the D-line are generally going to deal with that gap. So it's down, and the D-line have a dedicated gap off the snap that they're just going to hit. They might stunt, but let's assume they don't stunt. If they don't stunt, he's going to hit here. He'll hit here. It looks like he'll hit out here. 1 second. So he'll hit here. He'll hit here. 1 tech. He'll hit outside here. And essentially, we then got 2 gaps left, which 2 of these guys are going to play, and the possible gap that this person can create. So essentially, because the D-line is going to hit their gaps, or if it's a stunt, hit whatever gaps they are, we need our second level. Our second level must account for the gaps that the D-line don't hit, plus this fullback that exists. So we must be aware as a unit as to how we're going to look to do that. Now, a way in which it could be done is essentially you will have, if we knew exactly where the fullback was going to go and he wasn't going to move, let's say the fullback decides he's going to go and hit this outside area. If we knew that's going to happen, you essentially would have this backer is playing this gap, this backer is playing this gap, and then this backer would help to deal with the outside gap that this guy generates. That's if we knew exactly what it's going to do, but we don't know, and we can't assume to know. And let's scout, and they do 100% of the time, we can't assume to know. So essentially, it's down to our backers, our 3 backers, to react and work as a pack to deal with where this fullback is going to generate another gap. Now, a means in which you might do it is that you might go, okay, cool, we're going to assign 34, you're the fullback player, or 34, you're going to play the outside shoulder of the fullback. If he inserts inside, so if he inserts, you're going to be the outside shoulder of the fullback. If he inserts inside the line or out to you, as you're showing, you're going to be outside shoulder on the fullback. If he inserts inside the line or outside or to your side. Outside shoulder on the fullback, he inserts inside the line or to your side. If the fullback works across the line, across the field, we will essentially treat it as a pull. And then because we're treating it as a pull, I'd expect that the linebackers work as a team, work as a unit to go and do the job. So if this guy were to work across the field, what would end up happening is that in the previous play, or the previous way we set up, we said that this person would have this gap, this person would have this gap, we've got this guy here, we've got this guy here. That's what we said. So if we treat it as a pull, essentially what ends up happening is that because this person's working across the field, we would mirror that, we would work, we then see him flash across us as a pull, we would work seeing flash across us as a pull, we would work. And essentially, 34 would end up replacing into this gap, 6 would end up replacing into this gap, and 7 would end up playing this on the outside. That's the means of how you do it. But those two examples I've given are showing you at the second level as linebackers or as a loaded safety or a loaded DB, we must work as a unit to deal with this extra gap and where it might pop up and be aware of it. So in the way in which they run this now, the gap pops up on the inside. The gap pops up on the inside. The gap pops up on the inside. Cool. The gap pops up on the inside. Wide window open, come downhill. Boom. But he still gains about 7 yards. Now, why does that happen? Why does that happen? Remember what I said previously. 34 might be the fullback player or play the outside shoulder on the fullback. So in reality, because 34 doesn't have a gap here, if they run it to his side or they run it, if this guy runs out to the outside, he's essentially watching the fullback. He doesn't have to be worried about what the O-line do. He's basically quickly reading the O-line through to the backfield. You rarely want to read just the backfield. So what ends up happening here? As you can see, 34 is half a second late. It makes sense in this situation because the D-line here run a stunt. The D-line here run a stunt. So we've got this guy looping inside, he's going outside, and they run it both sides. He's working here, he's looping inside. So because of that pre-snap, we need 2 people to deal with these outside gaps. 2 people to deal with the outside gap. Based on how 34 plays it, I assume he's one of the people dealing with the outside gap. Based on how 34 initially plays it, where he looks to protect the outside gap, I assume he's one of the people dealing with the outside gap. So let's assume 7's dealing with the outside gap. So because all these gaps are filled in, essentially 6 should become our guy who is mirroring and playing fullback. And depending on their rules, they might have it the case that 34 and 7, if someone comes out towards you, you're taking the outside shoulder, and then 6 basically just flows and takes the inside shoulder regardless of which way it goes. But it's very unlikely that if the fullback does fill inside, that will be 6's job to take the outside shoulder, because if he takes the outside shoulder, he basically negates one of his help. So he's the inside person, take the inside shoulder. So let's see how it then plays out. Cool. So we get a nice window open here. 6 is a little bit hesitant. But he comes down here in relatively decent time. It's not the end of the world how he plays it. Window open, look to be aggressive in that, fill that. You know if the fullback comes in, you want to take his inside shoulder, which he does initially. But the challenge in which he has here, that number 6 has here, is that as number 6 looks to take on this block, although he's in my opinion, he's to the right side of the fullback. The way in which he plays it is that it doesn't help him maintain or keep a hand free at all. It doesn't help him maintain or keep his hands free at all. So because of that, even though he's got to the right gap, he can't make a play if someone runs into his gap. And that essentially is what ends up happening here. He gets blocked downfield. And then as the stunt is going, the D-line do a good job causing a lot of chaos. I think 7's a little bit passive, waiting. And then he ends up getting large yardage. But the D-line do a great job in terms of making a mess, getting some penetration. It's just a little bit more aggressive play from the second level and better taking on that block. Rather than it being it ends up being like a 6-7 yard game. I think if he takes on this block a little bit better, 34 plays a little bit aggressive, a little bit more aggressively here, even though he has to read the outside, plays the fullback. I think what we can end up having here, we can end up having a 3 yard gain rather than a 7-yard gain. And because of the stunt, I don't think you're going to get much better than a 2 to 3 yard gain. Because of the way the stunt is it would be very hard to stuff this for basically a 1 yard gain unless your D-line just absolutely excel. And I think that they did an excellent job as it is anyway, generating a lot of pressure. He gets in scot-free, forces this guy here gets in scot-free, forces the running back to bounce, delay a little bit, which is an excellent job. So I think Dion do it well. I think if the second level plays a little better, you only get 3 yards, and then because of how it's played, they double the amount of yardage. So nice formation, nice blocking, strong D-line play. But due to a little bit of weaker second level play, they gained 7 yards instead of 3. Cool, let's go to the next play. Once again, they're in body gun minus, twins left. Here you see you've got a better job. They still gain 6-7 yards. But because we've explained how they've lined up, how we're defending it, how we're looking to deal with the gaps, I'm not going to go over that again. They still gain 6-7 yards, but it's a relatively better job. I don't know if they've got the stunt still. Cool. This time they don't have the stunt. And I think this is one of the things that will certainly help them, and I feel maybe necessary in this championship game for Knox to have the best chance of going and winning it all. I feel that this is the case, that their second level play, particularly their linebacker play, needs to improve to help essentially with the ultimate goal of minimizing the strength of the run game in which UWE had this game. So in this one, we don't have a stunt, so the D-line hit all their gaps. So we essentially want someone to be the fullback player. For the sake of this analysis here, I'm going to say 34 is who we want to be our forward player. So he's taking the outside shoulder of the fullback. If he comes outside or inserts inside, this person's going to take the inside shoulder, or assume that fullback comes in through his gap, he's taking the inside shoulder. This person's just playing his gap. That's what ends up happening. That's what we should end up seeing. So cool, we've got window open, or what I would describe window open. I might not explain window open, so let me just explain that quickly. One of the terminology I had when I was getting coached, and I like to use it, but essentially we read the O-line, we've got guard tackle. Window open is if you have, let's say you've got the center, you've got a guard, center guard. If the center down blocks this way, this guy down blocks this way, you essentially have a window open. If the guard and the center block the same way, you essentially have the window closed. Now, because you're reading the line and you're playing your gap, you'd still play your gap. Or I believe it's important to play a gap, and everyone just play their gap and then we stuff the run. But in a window open situation, it basically just removes the thinking. If it's your gap and it's window open, you plug it and you plug it as fast as possible. So with the fact that here, before the fullback gets into the gap, we have a window open. In my mind, I would be expecting 6 to go hell for leather. Boom, just run through that gap as fast as possible. You don't know what's coming, but you expect something to be coming, and that's the gap you're meant to play. We go in as hard as possible, try and stuff it, and then if we do that, we meet the fullback at the line of scrimmage. That's where we meet him, rather than 3 yards downfield, which is where we initially end up meeting him here. Yeah, we cause a mess up, but if we meet at the line of scrimmage, we might stuff this for minimal to no gain, rather than the 3 or 4 yard gain that ends up happening here. Similar here with 34. 34 is looking to read the running back rather than the line, and then because of that, he's a little bit slow to get there. Yes, he makes the tackle, but they gain 4 yards rather than a 2 yard or 1 yard, or in this case, could have been a minimal yard gain. So I hope that's, from what I've explained there, it's clear as to how they could have done a better job in terms of stuffing the run for a shorter gain. Some of the strengths that the D-line has had in those first 2 plays, some of the weaknesses the second level players had within this game. That's not taken away from the linebackers doing a relatively decent job, but against the run, it was evident in the game UWE were able to run the ball with a regularity and a fearsome that if they're able to do that again in the championship game, it is going to be a challenge, regardless of the strengths and how well Nottingham offense play, for them to go and do what their ultimate goal is, which is to pick up that trophy. So, yeah, let's go to the next play. Cool. They've come out again, this time in body plus. Twins right. Cool run play. Cool, what do we have this time? So this time we had a counter. We've essentially had a counter. So what's a counter? So let me do it blue just so we don't mix up with this. So essentially had a counter. So what we're going to end up having is down block, down block, down block, pull to kick, pull to wrap. Yeah, pull to kick, pull to wrap, otherwise I'll check it again. Then they've essentially had the fullback, use the fullback to act as extra protection here, so to block this guy out. Then you've had a fake step as though he's running towards the left, and then follow his blockers in terms of for the sake of timing. That's essentially what we've ended up having. So counter, we've got two people from the backside coming to pull to kick, pull to wrap. They've helped to ensure that the D lineman can't make a play here by having the fullback blocking, which I think is a nice little addition to this counter play. And then the running back's done a good job in terms of running there. So let's see what ends up happening here. Pull to kick, pull to wrap, boom, 3 yards straight to the second level. Now, why has this run gained so many yardage? Why has this run gained so many yardage? So cool, we've got a body look here. We've got a body look here. First thing. Well, it's obvious that Knots must have been expecting a pass. Knots must have been expecting a pass because they've lightened the box. They've lightened the box, or maybe they've decided they're going to do something else in order to deal with the fact they've lightened the box. Maybe they're going to look to put this end inside so that this guy has to watch for this as well as play the outside. That's an option, but they've lightened the box against this body look. And remember what we said? In order to be, on paper anyway, sound initially, unless you've got a mismatch of talent and have dominance, it's the number of blockers they possibly have plus 1. So, because they're in the body look, they still got 6 possible blockers. We're excluding the QB. We need 7 defenders. Assuming that we match up equally, we need 7 defenders. They've taken number 7 out of the box and they've only got 6. So straight away, if this was run well, or they get a hat on a hat, or they do a good job in terms of blocking it up, there is going to be a gap that cannot be defended by Nottingham. That's just on paper. That's what's end up going to happen, unless someone does a great job and ends up basically doing the job of someone else, or being able to play 2 gaps. So here, from the start, they struggle. On paper, they're already 1 gap down. Now, maybe 6 is sent on a blitz. 34 here. Is caught watching the backfield rather than the O-line. And I know some people might teach it that way. That's not my preference. And having played alongside some of the coaches that know them, I imagine that's not how they teach it. But if it is the case, fair enough. That's their scheme. That's how they do it. And it's made them successful. That's their choice. But in this world, one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of reading the O-line rather than the backfield is that the O-line are going to take you to the play. The O-line will take you to the play. People have the O-line move to block for lanes in which they want to run down. So if you watch the O-line and read the O-line, they are going to take you to the play. And the backfield often has misdirection. And by the time you react to how the backfield moves, if you haven't reacted to what the O-line's done, you're already half a step late. And that's what you end up witnessing here with number 34. Cool. He's watching the backfield, gets done by the counter. He's not watching the 2 pullers go. By the time he recognises it, he's a second and a half behind the play. There is now no way in which we can deal with this. There is now 6 is also should have read the pull as well and worked across, but you can see it in this freeze frame here. Cool. This is our puller that came to kick. This is our down block from our tackle. This is our puller that came to wrap. Now, if you look at this, what do we end up having? We've got 3 guys there, because there are 3 guys. How many players do we need to defend the gaps? 3 guys, 4 possible gaps. We need 4 players. Now, if 7 was in the box, 7 would have been one of the people that were going to deal with this gap. So 7's out. So we're already a person down. So 34 probably has a gap to this side, but with the people that we have, if we're going to look to defend this, both 34 and 6 as the second level players need to flow with the pool and fit these 2 gaps, because these 2 extra gaps. Because if we watch this here, you've got D lineman here, you've got a gap outside the puller that's pulling to wrap, you've got a gap inside the puller that's pulling to wrap, you've got this guy blocking here. And essentially, we need, because 7's out the play, or you can have the safety. Technically, I guess you can have the safety come down, but the safety's passed first. By the time he comes down, they're already going to gain 6 yards. If not more. So, if we're going to play it the way that it's like here, even though we're gapped down, to have any fighting chance, 34 and 6 need to just flow the pool. And yeah, we're going to give up a gap anyway, because as I highlighted initially, we don't have enough people to defend the run. But that's what we would have to do. And essentially, in this world, the moment that we get this look from the UWE line, this is going for yards. The running back essentially has a 2-way goal. He's just following behind his blocker, waiting for the time when he has to press. And then that's essentially what ends up happening. And then they gain maybe yardage. 6 ends up caught in the wash. Can't flow with it. Boom. Before it gets anywhere, it's a safety coming and making a tackle. Safety does a decent job to basically stop them gaining more yards than that, because he just follows in behind. But yeah, we did it in this situation defensively. The moment 7 went away from the play, I assume it's because they're thinking it's a pass play. They don't have enough defenders to deal with a number of gaps. The moment that our second level don't flow with the pool and are in the backfield rather than the O-line, at that point, the yardage is going to be gained. And the fact that the safeties come down and basically blow up the puller and the thing, that saved what would have easily been 20, 25 yards. And it's only been like a 8-yard gain? 8-yard gain? Yeah, it's like an 8-yard gain. That's just because of the excellent job of the safety. Cool, next play. Still UWE's first drive. Cool, we're in body. In fact, no, what's it called? Oh, yeah. We're in body. Oh, we've got an extra alignment. What would I call this? I would probably call this body gun minus duo. That's probably what I would call it. They brought in an extra lineman, although he's playing tight end, and they've got single receiver, and then they motion the single receiver. But let me know what you would call it. Cool, heavy run formation, run play. Once again, gain about 6 yards. Once again, gain about 6 yards. So let's look at this now. So we motion this guy to become essentially another blocker. So because we motion this guy to go on another one, we've got 5, plus the fullback 6, plus the extra lineman acting as a tight end 7, plus this guy attached upon it as well, wing back 8. So essentially we need 9 people to defend this. We need 9 people to defend this possible run. And how you decide to choose to do that is down to you. Like, the way I would probably look to do it, although I know some people prefer different sort of matchups, is that because my corner doesn't have a receiver to deal with, I'll have my corner play the edge, I start the D lineman in, and then make sure I have enough bodies inside. So I would look likely to have, we need 9 people to defend this. I would have my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then I would load one of the safeties. either 40, maybe I'll just go with 9. You can either play it off there and going, okay, cool, if they get to the outside, then they all come downhill hard. Or you can blow the middle of the field safety, and essentially it forces you to be in a certain coverage. Like, essentially, if you've got this sort of look, you're likely going to be forced to be in man. If you play it the way I'm saying, in terms of prioritizing, making sure your gaps are against the run over everything. Now, none of them don't play it this way. They don't play it this way, but cool. Essentially, what Nottingham end up doing. Nottingham end up essentially playing this as a 7-man box. 7-man box. So they've got 2 gaps that are unaccounted for, which they just won't defend. And the safeties are basically going to read. If they figure out it's a run, then they're going to come and help out late, or they're going to play the coverage. So essentially they're going, okay, cool. If it is a run, our 7 men are going to delay it long enough for our safeties to come and help out, and it'll be a relatively minimal gain. Or we don't mind them gaining 4 or 5 yards on this play. If it becomes a big problem, we'll switch up. That's essentially what they're saying. Because they've essentially only got their standard 7. Dealing with this corner, the corner doesn't really play a run, or if he does, the D lineman takes the outside anyway, so the corner is basically useless there, or is not doing anything there in terms of in the run game, and the safeties come in late. So that's how they choose to play. Now this run really, based on the fact that they've got so many bodies, should go for major yardage on the UWE side, but why doesn't it? Why doesn't it go for major yardage? Cool. Why doesn't it not go for major yardage? So they end up, in this one, they're looking to run a power. But the fullback gets confused by the fact that basically the D-lineman in this one, they're looking to run power. They're looking to have this fullback kick this guy out, this guy pull to wrap. This lineman probably should have left this guy and gone here, but he's gone and engaged this person. So the fullback doesn't know what to do, and the fullback ends up going outside. That's what the fullback ends up doing. But they're looking to run power. And if they do run power, this is going to be another one of them ones that goes for like 9-10 yards before it gets stopped. But essentially, what ends up happening is that they have 7 people, they need 9 to defend the run based on what we said initially. So what happens to those 2 extra gaps? Because it still doesn't go for like ridiculous amounts of yardage. One of the extra gaps is essentially generated here/here. One of the extra gaps is, I think it's generated on the inside, because therefore takes the outside. One of the extra gaps is generated on the outside here, but the run's not going there, so it ends up being negated. So in a sense, Knott's got lucky, then that's not where they're looking to run. Where the open gap is not where they're looking to run. And the second gaps essentially also ends up getting negated. Because of the fact that the fullback, because he ends up being confused by the fact that this lineman blocks this guy instead of leaving him for him, ends up working to the outside. And because he ends up working to the outside, the 2 gaps which he would have generated end up null and void. So rather than it being 9 gaps you have to deal with, it's now all of a sudden 6. And because the seventh player on knots essentially deals with one of these outside gaps, you essentially end up with a 6-on-6 situation. So you end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 against 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you can essentially negate this guy from the UWE line because of how this D lineman plays it. He essentially ends up being the outside shoulder on this guy. So because of how the D lineman on Knots plays this, he acts as he makes it so that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This fullback is going to basically run away and come out here and basically not be a factor because this D lineman is taking the inside shoulder. Because this D lineman is taking the inside shoulder, he ends up being your 6th guy. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 against 5, and we're able to deal with that, and that's how you'll see it play out. So it's at 5 on 6. So we're now gap sound because of how it's ended up developing throughout the play. Even though at the start, if they'd run it perfectly, we wouldn't have enough people to deal with the run. So let's watch that. Cool. So what we end up with here, the lineman here has done a good job stacking this guy, shedding it, playing his gap, dives for his legs. Unfortunately, doesn't make a play, but this running back cannot run into this gap. So this running back only has this goal. Now, if the linebacker comes and fits this, we're looking at what maybe a 2-yard gain, But because he ends up getting caught up with this lineman, and this guy is just caught up in the wash, we don't get flow. The guy ends up taking the gap and gains like a bunch of yardage. So the second level play here, once again, is lacking, and it's been a challenge, and it's why this goes for a lot of yardage, even though initially they weren't necessarily on paper gap sound. Cool. And then he ends up gaining like 7, 8 yards before the safeties come and help him out. Once again, we can't, on the second level, I can't stress this enough. Unless your coaches are teaching you this and are teaching you ways of having to deal with situations such as this, we do not want to read the backfield. The backfield lies. There's a lot of misdirection. There's a lot of stuff they do for timing. The backfield lies. If you stare at the backfield and assume it's going to get you to the play on time, it may happen like 30% of the time, but it lies. The O-line don't, generally, unless they're running naked. But if they're running naked, they're putting players at risk because they don't have any blockers for them. And that's not how offenses work. Offenses want to put their big guys in the way of the other guys so that their smaller guys can make big yardage. So read the line. Because if 50, I think it's 59 here. If 59 reads the line and reads the pool here, he would be moving left, which he does a little bit slow. He'll be moving left at a faster pace. But he moves a little bit left, but it's because he's watching the running back step to the right. So he watched the running back step to the right, so he's mirroring that, which is why he's a little bit slow, waiting for the running back to declare. As he's waiting for the running back to declare, this lineman has done his job and gotten into this hole. And because of that, he can't flow with it. We don't get flow from number 6 either. So there's now a 2-way goal in this hole. Excellent job from the D lineman. The D lineman here is the only reason why it's not a free 2-way goal. D lineman essentially ends up stacking this guy, controlling him, dives for the legs, making it a one-way goal, which is only through this lane. And if we get even one linebacker coming and filling here, we stuff this. We stuff this for like a 2-3 yard game. Maybe they get a first down, but it sets the tone and the standard in the sense that we stuff this. But because we don't get that good of a flow from the second level in terms of reading the line and penetrating it, what do we end up having here? The guy skips that leg. Number 6 gets blocked by the pulling guard. They gain 6-7 yards, and it comes to the second level before they make a tackle. And it comes down to the second level before they make a tackle. So let's check out the next play. Cool, this is a pass play. So as we see, UWE has been dominant with the run. They decided to go for a pass play in this situation. Come out in the trips, sort of trips gone minus. QB gets antsy in the pocket and doesn't get outside. And I think it's one of the things that shows once again the strength of the Notts D-line. Notts D-line, they're relentless. They go after it, put in pressure, don't generate initial pressure, but keep collapsing that pocket. QB panics once he doesn't get his first read Starts looking to run to the outside. Now I'm not certain what the QB is looking for here. I'm not certain what the QB is looking for here. It looks almost like a sort of dragon concept with a fade. I'm not sure what the concept is here from the UWE guys, but I think it might be a dragon with sort of a fade with an inside release. So essentially, this guy's going upfield, and then the concept is like an out here and a slant here. That's what I think. That's what I think it is. That's what I think it is. But it's not run well. It gets a very murky read. It makes QB a challenge. I'm not sure which one the QB is looking to hit off the bat, but the QB is looking at an initial read. It doesn't work out, and then he's off. He's off. And there's a difference between, and I think there'll be other players that highlight this, but this is what I feel like is one of the things that Nottingham can use to try and attack if they do a decent job in terms of if they take away the QB's first read. Unlike the Nottingham QB, who I thought watched some of the tape, what he's done an excellent job in is that it's clear that he knows the full concept and what his answers to and what he's going to look to progress to if the initial answer isn't there. The UWE QB doesn't do that as much, or it wasn't obvious to me on tape that he does that as much. He knows his number one read, he knows what he's looking to go for. If something else opens up while he's got a nice little pocket, he'll hit it once he's confirmed it, but he doesn't know what his answers and progressions are while rotating through the play. That's just from what I've seen. That's from what I've seen in terms of what the tape is telling me. And we see this one is not a clear one because like it gets a murky read. I don't think the receivers run the route particularly well. I'm not 100% certain of the concept, but because of the way it's initially run, these two are instantly in the same sort of area. It's difficult to read off this. If you're being particularly picky, I guess you might go, "Oh, you've seen the corner. He's bailing. That we might be able to get this throw out here if we throw it on time." But I still think that's a risky throw. I think it's a challenge because of the way in which the routes have been run here, in order to know what he's trying to target straight off the bat, because it's just not crisp routes. Cool. But even then, I think this is a pretty good pocket from the UWE line, and I think that there is space here for the QB to step up into. There's space here for the QB to step up into, but because his initial read was murky, and I feel that he's not wary as to what he wants to go to once that initial read is murky. He doesn't look to step up. He's looking to buy himself time to get a new platform to reassess the landscape and then make his throw. Because if he knows what his concept is, or he knows like it to the finite detail, and he's seen this initial murky, he steps up into the pocket. Eventually, what we end up having here is that this guy gets wide open. This guy's open to a degree, but this receiver here gets wide open. If he steps onto the pocket, he may get hit, but he'll be able to throw this to the receiver to the low side of the field. If we watch it now, he'll be able to throw this to the receiver to the low side of the field. But he instantly, rather than stepping up in the pocket, he feels the pressure. He's not sure. He wants to look at 7. 7's not initially open. He's wary of it. Looks to go get the first down. Excellent play from the D-lineman, stuffing him for like a 3-yard gain. But I feel that if he was aware or he was looking and reading this entire side, he could have thrown it to 19. Who got inside leverage, was open, steps up into the pocket, makes his throw. The QB can make this throw. We'll see later on. The QB can make excellent throws, particularly down the sideline and deep throws. It makes excellent throws, but it doesn't work out this way. Looks to the outside, doesn't manage to beat into the edge, and the D-line who have done, I've said, although the run has been a challenge, the D-line, the Notts D-line is excellent. It is an excellent D-line. They do a good job. They hustle. They fight hard. They're athletic. They do an excellent job. Let's go to the next play. Long shot. This is a forward concept, fading out. Or I know it as a forward concept. Out, fade. Cool. QB's just seen. I don't know whether they see this is the next play directly. I don't know whether they've spoken and seen, oh yeah, I won that. I beat that corner on that last play. Give me an opportunity, get the ball out to me. The receiver does a nice job. I like the receiver's route. The receiver's route is excellent. Unfortunately, it's a slightly overthrown ball. Slightly inaccurate throw, sorry. But it's a lovely route. If we watch what the receiver does here, the receiver does his initial stem. This guy's got inside leverage. The receiver stems towards the leverage, causes him to widen, then creates his space, runs along the numbers. And if it's a decent throw, it's a free 20 yards. It's a free 15, 20 yards. If it's a decent throw, it's a free 15, 20 yards. Very well-run route. Very good job. Inaccurate throw on this occasion. Cool. Let's go to the next play. Here we go. This is another one. So they decided that they wanted to throw the ball a little bit now. Now, if we look here, yes, this ball's complete. This ball is complete. But if you remember back to what we were looking at the notes tape and the crispness with which the QB made decisions and acted on it and then moved on it. If we watch here, with this concept is, I believe it's an out and out and a fade. It's an out and out and a fade. And essentially he's reading, what's he reading here? Cool. It looks to me here that he's reading number 7 and he basically is reacting off number 7. He knows this guy's going to work out. This guy's going to work out. Based on the fact that this guy's off, if it's a good throw, this guy will be open as long as 7 is not in the vicinity. As long as 7 is not in the vicinity. If 7 is in the vicinity, then if this guy's right, if 8 has to take away the fade. If 8 doesn't take away the fade, one of these two is going to be open. One of these two is going to be open. So essentially he's reading 7. If 7 vacates, then the number 3 should be open. If 7 doesn't vacate, the number 2 receiver should be open. Cool. So let's watch that. Cool. 7 vacates here, but if you watch the QB, he almost clutches it and waits to confirm for the number 3 receiver to turn his head around to show him he's ready before throwing it. While in my mind, this throw should be done with anticipation. If it's done with anticipation, this guy might gain some yards, might make some plays. Like the moment 7 vacates, if the QB looks to throw it towards this region, number 3 receiver might catch it and gain some yardage. Now this is very minor. The guy catches it, they gain the yardage. It might not happen, might not even win. But I feel like if he had just worked on the anticipation, because 7 is vacated, the decision's made. Like you're going to want to throw this ball. You throw a little bit early, it gives your players a chance to make a play. But because this ball is thrown to the later end of the timing window, essentially the guy gains no extra yardage on it. And that's what we witness. Boom, tackled straight away. Cool. So, though it's completion. QB read the play correctly, got the throw out. I thought that he could have been a little bit more crisp with in terms of reacting to the decision he's made. 7 is vacated. You throw it with a little bit of anticipation, throw in a nice slot. The moment the guy gets out of the break, you should catch it. You might gain a few more yards. And it's a small thing. You may agree, you may not agree, but that's what I think on that one. So this is their second drive, the third play of their second drive. Cool, another run play. Boom. Big yardage. And what you'll see here is a consistent theme. A consistent theme with the run plays is that the run plays are getting to the 3rd level before getting dealt with. And you don't want that to happen. In reality, so we've seen for the last few plays, I think the last 3 or 4 plays, UWE have chosen to pass the ball. They've chosen to pass the ball. They haven't needed to pass the ball. They've chosen to pass the ball. Because their run game has been dominant in the plays that we see. Like, they are regularly getting 4 or 5 yards minimum a clip. Like, they just chosen to run and pass the ball because they wanted to do that. They could have just ran until these guys decided to figure out how to defend the run. I don't know if that's what they'll change up in the final or they'll stick at this, then they won the game. But if the run's not getting stopped, why not just keep running the ball? Cool, so what do we have here? So we're once again in body gun minus, twins left. We've got 7 people in the box, plus a safety who they've loaded slightly. So it looks like it might be man. Maybe the safety's high in the middle of the field, but it looks like it might be man. So they've essentially got extra blockers. not maybe in this situation have realised that they're struggling in terms of dealing with this run. So they decided to load it with an extra person to help afford the run and essentially isolated their DBs to cover up singularly. So what we end up having here. Cool. We end up running power. Or we essentially end up running power. Well, why would describe as power anyway? Essentially end up running power. But on this occasion, so we've got, so essentially what we end up having is block down, block down, block down, block down, pull to wrap, pull to kick, I would argue, pull to kick. Although it's at awkward angle, so it looks like he's also pulling to wrap, but it's pull to kick, pull to wrap. So essentially we've got power. And then we've got this guy coming in through this lane. So now, in order to deal with this, how would we play this? How should we look for Nottingham to play this? Or how would I recommend it should be played? Essentially, because of the way in which they down block the guard and the centre, you end up with a window open here. You're going to end up with a window open here. So I would expect this guy to plug them instantly. That guy should be plugging that instantly. Window open. And knowing that essentially if the fullback comes into there, his job is to take the inside shoulder. I'd expect him to be plugging it, working off the outside leg of the centre as the centre's down blocking. 34, I'd expect him to be, because the D lineman is taking the B and the C gap, it's taking the C gap and the B gap. I would expect him to be watching the fullback and knowing he's got to play the outside shoulder of the fullback. So the moment the fullback comes in here, he's working to plug that out. So that now leaves one gap open. And because the guard pulls from this side, so because this card pulls, I'd expect number 7 to read the guard, fill, boom. And we essentially end up using our second level to plug up the 3 gaps they've created. D-line's doing their thing, fighting hard, trying to penetrate, trying to work. And these 3 working as a unit deal with the 3 gaps that are created from the 2 points. That's what I expect. If we do that, this goes for a 1, 2, maybe 3 yard game. That's what would end up happening. Of course, that isn't what happens, so that's clearly not what they do. Cool. And why does it go for so many yardage here? Not only are they a little bit passive in terms of like the second level, coming downhill and filling the gaps. You see, the 2 pullers have come through. No one's hit them at the line, so they're now working now for extra 3 yardage. 34 is a bit late. 6 is a bit slow coming down. When 6 does now engage the block, 6 should be engaging here. 34 engages here, 7 engages here. Ideally, it all happens 2 yards before this point, but that's what should end up happening. When 6 does engage the block, he ends up engaging the block here, and essentially what that ends up doing is it negates 34. We essentially have 1, 2 people in the same gap. Essentially have 1, 2 people in the same gap. If 7 ends up taking this outside lane, what do we end up having? 7 ends up taking this outside lane. What do we end up having? Because of that, this lane's wide open. That's what he ends up hitting. Doesn't get challenged to the second level. So it's a second level play. We've got to know our gaps, know how they might fit and flow, and work as a unit to help the D-line. It's a box. The box just has to work together as a unit to stuff the run. Having a dominant D-line will not always save you, particularly if you come against a team that's as equally talented, which is what UWE are not far. They're relatively equally talented, in my opinion. Boom, gets free, gets the second level, fights hard, gains a bunch of yardage. Cool, the 4th play. Drive. body, minus again. Lovely deep throw. Nice ball, good. And I think this is one of the strengths of the UWE QB. I think the UWE QB, if his number one read's open, he gets to them, he gets into them relatively accurately, it's a good job. If you're asking him, or if it's a number one, or it's a simple read, I'm going to look at this, I'm going to throw this ball up, be relatively accurate, he's good at it. And this is just an example, you've got the fade out here, put into the perfect spot in between the corner and the safety that's coming to try and help out. And he did that with a regularity in this game. Did that in a regularity in this game. It was 3 or 4 of these balls he managed to slot. Some of them were caught, some of them weren't. But he managed to slot it. So if this is number one read, or you're asking him to hit a fade on a sort of press look, he does an excellent job on that. And it comes to having to then work through his progressions, or the second read isn't wide open or isn't initially his peripheral view, I don't think he does the best job on that. And I think if Knots can get him into a situation where he can't instantly go to his number one read, or he has to read the concept throughout and make decisions, I think that's when they'll get it. But we'll see how it ends up going in the championship game. Because they're well matched teams. So here, and I think this is another one. So this ball from the QB, one of the strengths of the UWE offense. This sideline throw, fade, good strength. I thought this is and I have no doubt the Knots team, Knots coaching staff, are going to watch the tape, see what was worked well, see what they thought was bad. I thought one of the things with the Knots tape is this was a recurring theme. Well, we'll see it now in the second drive, but if you end up watching the full game, you see it's a recurring theme. They like to play this sort of press and start off press from their corners with an inside leverage. And I assume that's to take away anything quick underneath and any sort of in-breaking rights. Try and take away from that. And that's maybe from scouts what they've seen, and that's what they challenge. I personally thought that them living in this sort of press and soft press and not really get hands-on or missing, it gives them this fade ball with a consistency. And the UWE wideout receivers, they're good off the press. They get nice releases. They stem well against it. They get themselves. They generate space and separation. And the QB's good enough to catch and make these throws. So I'm not saying that they shouldn't play press at all. I just think they shouldn't live in this press. And they lived in this press in the game, and they got penalised for a few times. Yes, a few times that they made the plays, but the QB is accurate enough, and the receivers do such a good job on the release against this press with a regularity that I feel like just changing it up, sometimes showing press, maybe sometimes not showing press, but just not living in this is a way to go. That's what I personally find, and you see it here, especially on the top of the field, corners in press. Lovely little release, misses the jam, gets open, lovely throw into that soft spot, and it's scored. And although this is the first one, it's not the only one they do in this game. Cool, next play. Nice, little interception. Cool. And I think this play here is another example. The rest of the concept gets messed up. It's a no-go. But QB never looks to deal with it anyway. But it's a no-go. But with this, the QB's pre-snap, he knows he wants to go to 19. If 19 gives him a good enough look, or looks like he's winning within a certain window which he's going to look at it, he's going to look to make that throw. And that's what ends up happening here. Even though it looks now ill-advised, but I would argue it was always ill-advised, just from the certain things I'm going to talk about now. So we look here, off the snap, they're doing what they've been doing all game. This side, soft press or a little bit off. Corners in the chat that let me know. Inside leverage, the soft press, inside leverage. So it looks like he's chosen to go ahead. And they do pre-snap, he does a signal which the receiver seems to acknowledge. But with the corner being inside leverage, as you see, it's a pick. Seems as though in the window in which the QB is looking at, he sees that at this point it looks like he's going to win on the inside. And the moment he's done that, the QB's made a decision. He hasn't thought about the leverage of the corner, what the corner might look to do afterwards, and he's thrown it flat. And the moment he's thrown it flat, it's intercepted. If he throws it high over the top, maybe the corner catch, maybe the receiver catches it and it's a touchdown. But just based on the leverage and the alignment of the QB, this ball shouldn't be open if the corner plays it well. And the corner does play it well. He throws it regardless, and it's intercepted. Though if he had looked off, he could have thrown it to his check down. His check down might have got tackled for a minimal gain, but his check down's open. But he basically just looks at his number one receiver, sees he wins halfway in the route, but doesn't win completely in the route because the corner's the leverage and alignment, and he gets picked. But essentially he was like, I'm going there no matter what it comes. If this guy looks a certain way at a point in which I'm looking, and he got that, and he threw it, and he was picked. So that was their first two drives. Now these are just a couple of additional plays to get across some of the points to watch out for in the final. Cool. Here we go. So this is an example here where the QB has his first read. His first read is not open. And it's not obvious to me, or I don't think it's clear here that the QB knows what all the receivers should be running within the concepts and where he's likely to have solutions to his problems. I'd argue this first read, if he throws it on anticipation, is open, because essentially what he's looking at, they've got a stick concept here. So they've got this guy's looking to sit, this guy's breaking out, this guy's going deep. Then this guy runs a check down, and I'm not sure what 14 runs. Let's check. Ah, cool. And then 14 runs like a flanker route. So 14 just runs across the floor. Cool, so we've got a stick and we've got like flank and a check down or a slide. So that's the concept we've got. And essentially what I can see is that the QB's looking at how they've lined up. He's seen his inside most receiver, the safety's off. If he throws it sometime, it should be cool. And like, unless the safety bites down super hard, it should be cool. So he's thinking, yeah, I'm gonna go to 3. That's his number one option. But he doesn't know, he's not certain what his other, or what he's gonna go to if that's not open. Looking at this, it's just gonna be wide open. The safety's off, this guy's gonna hitch up at 5 yards. As long as I throw it on time, even if the guy gets tackled, we're gonna get the free 5 yards. Cool. So yep. So he runs, and I would argue that this is the sort of look you were expecting. As he's breaking down, if you throw this, he's going to catch it. Yeah, he's going to get hit. But if you throw this on time with a small anticipation on the break, unless you don't trust him, this is what you wanted. That's what I would argue. Like, so yeah, this ball should be thrown. You catch it, you get the 5 yards. But fair enough, he sees something he doesn't like. He decides not to throw it for whatever reason. Boom. And after spending a long time basically watching that, he didn't know what he wanted to do afterwards. So he's already decided that the play side is just a no-go. He's looking backside, but he doesn't know what he's looking for. Maybe he's looking at 14, but he then sees maybe he's looking at 14, the guy who's running the dagger, the flank route across. But I'm sure he sees this guy. Maybe he sees this guy over the top. If he had known what he was looking for, he could have probably looked at the defense quickly, seen that number 12 had peeled down with 14, and just got it straight to his check down. Thrown it to his check down, check down might have got some yards, might not have got some yards. But it would have just been a clear progression of boom, 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 check down. But he saw his number one option. Number one wasn't open. Now he's looking to look around. He's feeling the pressure of the pocket collapse on him. Yeah, there's a reasonable platform, but he's feeling that it's collapsing, and he doesn't feel he's got enough time to set himself, look at what he wants to look at, make his choice before he has to get out of there, and he ends up getting sacked. But it's an example, or I feel it's an example of where he's going for his first read. If his first read's not open, he doesn't know what solutions he has within the concept, or he doesn't quickly get to those solutions if he does know them, and he gets antsy in the pocket. So we'll watch it again through. just so you can see that play out. Doesn't like it, looks around, doesn't know where he's going to throw it, feels the pressure, boom. Well, the D-line obviously does a good job and gets pressure quickly, but my argument, the point I'm trying to make is that if he knows what the rest of his concept is and where he might have possible solutions, even though he might get hit, he would have an answer that he can quickly get to while looking to process what the defense is offering him and just going, okay, this is going to be open. And then our final player we're going to look at, another additional from UWE. Come out once again in body, gun minus. Nice, gets the ball away, gets the ball out, gets the touch, gets out of bounds. Cool. So here, what it looks like is his number one target initially is the slot receiver to the right side. This is who he's targeting initially. He's not open. And he works through his progression to get to the guy who's flanking across. But the thing I want to highlight here is that, like, although he makes the decision, it could be a little bit crisper. And I think that because this guy's wide open, he gets the throw, so it looks well. And he's got a nice little platform. So cool, doesn't like that. Nice little platform, dances a little bit, gets the ball out. And what I'm trying to highlight with this video, he gets the ball out, he gets the pass off, they gain the yardage, is that what it seems as though from looking at this tape with the UWE QB, and it might be the case in the final, or maybe he plays slightly different, is that he needs almost things to be at the optimal side of good for them things to like tick. While what you can see with the Nottingham QB, he doesn't need that. Like, if it's there, wonderful, but his processes and his decision making and his decisiveness are all at a level that when even like it looks like hell's going on around him, he's still making decisions and plays that are based on process and a logical way of thinking. While here with the UWE QB, yes, he gets his ball out, but it's like you look at it, his first read's off, he dances a little bit in the pocket, he's got a wonderful pocket, lovely little platform to work with. Wonderful pocket, lovely little platform to work with. So his first read's off, dances a little bit, lovely little platform. Lovely little platform, look at that. Lovely little platform to work with. So he's got plenty of time to do whatever he wants to do. That allows him time to basically watch this guy for probably longer than he should. Because this receiver is going to run into a safety. 34's instantly turned his back. 34's instantly turned his back on it. Like, that's just not going to be open. So arguably, 88 is what is going to come open. Either 88 is what's going to come open, or if he decides he doesn't want to wait for 88 to come open, his check down's open straight away. So if he sees the concept, sees how the defender's playing it, knows he's running to another defender, see where he can look that off, maybe look to try and use his eyes or something of that ilk to try and shift this guy off the spot so he can generate this window here to throw it to give him more chances to get open, or he can just look straight to the check down. Now, in this world, because he's got plenty of time in the pocket, he lets it play out and 88 runs wide open, so it looks all well and good. But if it was covered a little bit more tight out, or there was someone waiting for 88, as is with the interception he had, I think he would have thrown it regardless. And it's not necessarily the case where it's like, cool, I'm reading this, I've made my decision, move on to the next thing, this is likely to be open. It's like, I'm watching this, if in the window I'm watching it, I see something that I like that isn't necessarily off of how the defense is playing it or how open it is, I'll then look to get to my next thing. And if I have enough time, I'm going to read that and see that. Whilst with the Knox QB, what you're seeing is that, cool, this is the concept I have, this is what I'm going, okay, cool. This is the confirmation I've looked for, that hasn't happened, on to the next thing. This confirmation I looked for, that hasn't happened, on to the next thing. And his decision making, as well as his ability to throw the ball, are crisp and sharp, and that's what made this game close, a little bit closer. And I think this is something that if the Knox defense can look to challenge on this UWE QB. Like, yes, he's a good QB, throws a lovely ball, plays excellent. These two teams wouldn't be in the final if they didn't have excellent talent on both sides of the ball. But I thought that his wanting to hit the first target and to stick on it a little bit later than he should, and then when he goes to the next target, waiting for that to almost be perfect at the same time as the first target, that is something that the defense can bite on and target. And if they force him to constantly have to play QB from the pocket and make decisions and choices from the pocket, I feel that he'll give up possibly some balls that are there to be intercepted, or necessarily get choked up by the defensive pressure, line pressure that the Knots have, because they've got a strong D-line, or just not make optimal choices necessarily in a timely manner. So, yep, and then throws that. But yeah, that's offense. That's the Knots team and the UWE team. Like, I think it's going to be a wonderful final. I think it's going to be a close game. As I've highlighted, they've got excellent talent on both sides. If I were to look at it, I feel like where both teams can look to attack is certainly the second level on both sides. I feel that Knots didn't really get a run game going, but if they're going to look to get a run game going, and I assume they are going to look to get a run game going because it helps just to balance out how you're going to move the ball, they need to try and target the second level and try and test the UWE linebackers a little more than they were able to in the first game, and see if they will hold up. If they hold up, then we go back to the drawing board. But let's see if they hold up, because the D-line has shown that they will hold up. And that's been the case. So in terms of how these two stack on, they've both got, I reckon they stack up relatively equally in terms of talent and coaching. In terms of as the package, the two teams stack up relatively evenly. Their scorecard suggests that they stack up relatively evenly going one-on-one. The fact they're both in the final suggests that they stack up relatively evenly. So when it comes to it, I'd say on the QB front, the Knots team have the better QB in my opinion, and that could be a difference maker for them. Although they're both obviously at a level, the Knots have the better QB. In terms of the receiver sets in the offense, I feel that's relatively matched. If I had to give it a slight edge, I might give it to the Knots in terms of their receiver set and occasionally have a QB. But it's not a big enough difference that I think that's going to be what makes a difference maker here. I think the QBs have a big enough difference that's going to be a different maker. The receiving core are both pretty good. When it comes to the defense, I think the defensively, the D-line on Knots and UWE, I think they match up pretty well. I think they both got excellent D-lines. In my opinion, I think the UWE D-line is arguably a little bit better, but the difference isn't enough that it's going to be the decider in the game. In the same way with the receiver core, although the Knots receiver core to me suggests that it might be a little bit better, the difference is not going to be what decides the game, while the QB could be a difference maker. I think at the linebacker level, the Knots and UWE linebacker core, they're relatively similar, but I think like just based on the footage and how the game played out and how UWE were able to stuff the run, and when their linebacker on occasion was called, he did a job, while the Knots second level really struggled against the run plays that UWE ran. That's a clear difference maker there. Like the linebacker play and the second level play generally from Knots needs to improve in this final, in my opinion. And if it doesn't improve, then the UWE will have the ability to run the way they were able to run in this game. And if they don't choose to pass the ball, then they'll just run, and then time will go off the clock. And unless their offense makes plays in which they were making like this, which I wouldn't necessarily be super reliant on, then it could be a challenging game. It could be a very challenging game. So I'd say on the linebacker front, although I think they're both weak points or points that can be targeted from either side, UWE's linebacker core played better and showed better things here because they weren't really tested compared to Knots linebacker core. On the DB front, I think they match up relatively well. Although I feel that Knots DB set is slightly better than the UWE DB set, and that can be a difference. And the UWE DB set showed that they have a mistake in them, particularly within the first two drives I've shown here. Whilst I would argue with the Knots set, the passes in which they conceded, particularly the sideline deep passes, that was arguably partly schematic. Like, if you're being asked to be impressed the entire time and you can't get a good receiver and he gets good releases, unless you're going to play that perfectly, then you're going to get beat on occasion. And that's what happened. There was never any like major blown assignments from what I could see. So I think they match up relatively well. I think it will come down to if Knots are able to better defend the run in this championship game, and how they defend the run. I think personally that would be required on their second level play and how well they do that. But there are other ways in terms of if they're able to stop the run, they're able to stop the run. How well their QB and their receivers play, as well as their offense coordinator calls plays, because I thought their offense coordinator did an excellent job in terms of calling plays. And then on the UWE front, if they're able to run the ball the way they were able to run in this game, they should be able to once again get their next ring once again. But I feel that they will have their challenge in terms of they both had time, know that they've been working towards this game. It will be the case where if Notts are able to stop the run and force them to have to now pass with more regularity and not just be able to go to their first read, I feel like Notts have a strong chance of them being able to quote what's probably known as the upset at this point because of the fact that they've been in this situation a couple of times. UWE as well won both times. But it should be an excellent game. I don't know who's going to win, but these are some of the things to watch out for. Some of the things you watch out for when you're watching the game. And as you watch it, we'll see what happens. I'm sure it'll be a wonderful game and a great game. And I'll catch you later on the next episode of Playmakers Alley. This has been a breakdown. Let's see who ends up picking up the trophy. Plateau or Plumber. We'll find out, no doubt.